Well, hi, welcome back to My Favorite Mistake. I'm Mark Graven. My guest today is Sandy Joy Weston. She's a keynote speaker, podcaster, 3 times published author, and entrepreneur. She's owned and operated health and wellness companies for over 30 years. Early in her career, Sandy became the first female trainer for the Philadelphia Flyers, the NHL hockey team, of course. She spent many years as a media personality and as a Philadelphia NBC 10's fitness expert. She created the nationally recognized Philly Street line dance to help combat Philly's, and this is in quotes, Philadelphia's, it's not me saying this, fattest city label. So before I tell you a little more about Sandy, welcome to the podcast. How are you?
Mark, I'm great. And I'm so excited to be here. And no one's ever read that bio about me. I'm like, whoa, I did those things. Yay.
You did. Now, you were doing a little dance. Was that the Gritty dance, the mascot, or was that something different? That was just your own dance.
The dance that I created was a specific line dance just for the city.
Okay. Well, you did a little dance just now. I didn't know if that if you were channeling Gritty.
I just dance.
You just dance.
Yeah.
That's good. And I'm not here to argue labels like fattest city. When I lived in San Antonio, going back a decade ago, I think San Antonio had that designation. I don't know if they surpassed Philadelphia, or it depends on who's measuring. But I'm glad you were doing some things about that on TV and otherwise.
Well, life's a balance. We can't stop eating our cheesesteaks. We got good cheesesteaks, and our restaurants are awesome. Yeah. All of them. Yeah, they're awesome.
And I've been to Philadelphia, and I have enjoyed those things. In San Antonio, I'm getting sidetracked, so maybe a mistake. But my primary care doctor, he gave me the "Welcome to San Antonio" speech about people move here and they gain weight because there's lard in everything. If it tastes good like a tortilla, there's lard in it.
Oh.
Lesson learned.
Ooh, that sounds good to me.
But again, we're joined by Sandy Joy Weston. For the last 5 years, she's focused on her company, SJW Productions. The main mission is to highlight all of the positive in the world. So we'll move beyond fattest city talk into that are more positive. But she does that through podcasts, writing. We'll talk about that. Programs and workshops, and she's trying to spread pure joy. It's right in your name, Sandy
It is.
Joy.
I was meant to do it.
And the podcast is called Let's Keep It Real. We're going to keep it real here as well, right, Sandy?
Yes, we are. Yes, we are.
So part of keeping it real is asking the question we always start off with here. I'm really curious to hear what your answer is. But what would you say of all the different things you've done, Sandy? What's your favorite mistake?
So I did a lot of pondering on this because there were a lot of really exciting ones. Yeah. But this one sticks out. And I decided I was going to do this because of what you read in my bio. So the year is 1993. And I opened up my first health club called Weston Fitness in Ballackinwood, suburbs of Philadelphia. I had owned a private training company for about 8 years called Specialty Fit. And because of all the amazing and wonderful people that I met in the Philadelphia area, I had the opportunity to raise some capital and open what I considered a club that was beyond its years, because we were one of the first clubs that had the most amazing private trainers in the club, as well as the classes were just the bomb. We got every class you could imagine. I wanted it there first. So spin, when they thought I was cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs, I brought spin in. They're like, so you want us to bike in a dark room? I'm like, yeah, I saw it in California. It's going to be great. Or yoga. There were things that I just always wanted to be on the cutting edge. And being a female owner, I felt like I had to prove that I could make it in such a difficult industry. I wanted to be like the Disneyland of health clubs. So when you came in, Mark, it was an experience. I went above and beyond. Not that only you had great workouts, but you were entertained. I would go to lengths to entertain you. And I also taught classes. Yeah. So here we are. We brought spin in. people end up freaking loving it. I only had 10 bikes. I had to figure out a way to bring in 5 more, small, dark room, atmosphere, mood lighting. I mean, it would sell out. But after a year of teaching spin and them coming 5 days a week, you had to come up with something else. Mm-hmm. I mean, you're always looking for that next thing to keep them excited. So one of my members had this brilliant idea that we were going to come up with porno spin.
What?
Yes. Now hold on there, people.
Okay, no, I'm not trying to cut you off. I'm just surprised to hear it. Please go ahead.
Porno spin. And this was not my biggest mistake. Porno spin was a class for people who were bored a little bit, needed a little excitement. And that one class once a week called porno spin, you would get your porno name. So everyone who came in was like, what's my porno name? What's my porno name? You know, it's your street, your whatever. And we'd say, oh, we have to pop your cherry. Like, and it was just so fun. Well, it was 1994 now. Mm-hmm. And again, the class is packed, waiting in line. Did anybody not show? Everybody wants a porno name. And I walk in and everyone yells, surprise! They surprised me for my birthday. Mm-hmm. And the room was pornoed out. I mean, like blow up, you name it. It was everywhere. And I was like, ah!
But like maybe like a PG-13 version?
Like or very family friendly.
Okay.
Like maybe blow up dolls, but like fun family. Like maybe not your kids, little kids, but it was all in good fun. Yeah. All in good fun. Me, in my extreme nature to always give them what they wanted and entertain, here's the biggest mistake. Mm-hmm. I decided, well, they did this all for me. I'm going to stand on top of my handlebars mm-hmm. with my towel and dance around like, woo, like what this. So I get up on my handlebars and everyone's cheering me on. I'm dancing. I'm feeling so excited. And then, boom, down I come. And I knock out my front teeth.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
Oh, no. Now, what I didn't tell you at the beginning of the story, in this amazing life that I had, owning a gym, dream come true, I also, in the year of 1994, was given the opportunity to be one of the first females to train a professional hockey team with the Philadelphia Flyers. Mm-hmm. Ed Snyder was one of my clients and mentors, and Pat Croce was a huge part of my life and a mentor, had brought me in to work with 7 of the guys who constantly got injured. Mm-hmm. So it was me and my 7 guys. And I got to work with Eric Lindros.
Oh, right.
Yeah. So it was awesome. Well, the night of this spectacular event of my birthday party and not having 2 front teeth was the playoffs. And I was getting to sit in the owner's box and watch my team play. What am I going to do? I mean, these are the who's who of Philly. I have no front teeth. My friends call everywhere around. You know, somebody that was, you know, the doctor, dentist, or Bruce Willis, but he couldn't get me into the next day.
Yeah.
So I go. I go to the game. I go up to Ed Snyder's box with my 2 front teeth. I'm like, hi. Everyone goes, what's going on with you? And they're very, you know, superstitious. You know, you have to sit the same spot. You have to sit next to Ed because they won the last game. And I'm like, and he's like, what the? And I'm like, well, and he goes, you got balls, girlfriend. You got balls.
Well,
but the moral of the story is everyone thought that I had done it to go to extremes for the hockey team, that I had planned that.
Right. Did they think you had like blacked out some teeth? Because it is a very hockey.
Blacked out. And then when they come near me, they're like, you you're a crazy person.
Yeah.
And then I had to say, I didn't say exactly what to everyone in the box, but I was like, no, this is purely, I swear to you. But no one believed me that it was purely coincidental.
Yeah.
So that was my favorite mistake that ended up working out for me. And then the next day, I did go to Bruce Willis's dentist, and he did a marvelous job.
Well, yeah, we can see that. We can see you smiling about that story. How many players on a given NHL team are missing a tooth or teeth at a given moment? Because a lot of them still don't wear full face protection. At most, they wear an eye visor. But
back in the day, I was going to look up the stats on that, but back in the day, almost everyone smiled. They didn't have their teeth, but it's a little better now.
Or maybe they're better at getting that fixed. But what a fun story. I mean, going back to the club for a minute and porno spin class. Like, this is why I try to listen and not make assumptions. Like, I thought the story was going in the direction of like outraged people picketing outside and getting all. It didn't cause an uproar that way.
No, it did. It was more. I can't. If you knew my personality, you would know it was family friendly. Like, it was all because they were just bored, and their days were rough, and they were just looking to have a little excitement.
Yeah.
And when you take the same kind of spin class, no matter, I don't care what new song you're putting on, we had to come up with something. And so I came up with porno spin, and it just took off. I kept it, and then I've opened up 2 other clubs after that, and I got known for, of all the things. That was one of the things. Besides bringing kettlebells in before its day, I was known for porno spin.
Now, that gives a new meaning if the gym was adults only.
No, it wasn't. We had childcare, and we had kid programs and the whole bit. Everything.
Yeah.
It was really family friendly.
So I was going to ask, you brought up being the first female trainer with the Flyers. Did that include being in the locker room or training rooms where, like, was there any controversy about that with even like some of the players, or to be in that space as a woman?
They really did embrace me. But again, it was me and 7 of my guy trainers. So I had my posse, but I really feel as if they all treated me with respect. Mm-hmm. Now, we only had 7 guys because we had 7 of them that kept getting injured, and they wanted to make sure they were doing the rehab once they got released from physical therapy so they could stay on the ice.
Yeah.
But the players that we didn't train, we won't name names, thought they could do different things to shock me. And they would come up to the training room where I was, where people were working out. And a few of them may or may not have had clothes on.
Yeah.
And they would train nude, like, just to see my reaction. And then if you don't let them see you sweat, I'm like, yeah, whatever. And then a couple times, like, the guys, like, some of them, you're stretching, they're like, oh, my groin hurts or whatever. I'd say, all right, Tommy, Billy's groin hurts. And they're like, never mind. I'm good. And going into the locker room, now and then I would have to pull a player out because they were supposed to be up for training and they weren't. And I would just go in and go, yeah, you got 5 minutes. Just get up here. And I'd just walk out. And that was it. And then I would, go against the wall and go, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. But I didn't let them see it.
Yeah. Yeah. Because I guess if they see that it bothers you, that just inspires more of, whether it's teasing or inappropriate behavior or sexual harassment, there's a spectrum there.
Yeah. And at the time, I was so drawing that line that I just felt like they were teasing me, seeing, like treating me like one of the boys. So I didn't even, I never felt, I was very, very fortunate. I never, ever felt that way. I always felt safe and that they would protect me.
Okay. Well, I'm glad to hear the behavior wasn't over a bad line.
Nope.
Good.
All great memories.
Well, good. Well, I wanted to ask you about, so what was the timing then of working for the NBC station in Philadelphia? I can picture like you're doing reports on how to on exercise tips, nutrition tips. My mistake. How did you get onto onto that spot on TV? What was that experience like? Imagine I would be I make mistakes here on the podcast. I'd be even more terrified of making mistakes on live TV.
You know, they say location, location, location. Well, my club was a few blocks from 3 of the major stations, 3, 6, and 10. And when they were short of story or they needed a filler, they'd come over and say, we need a story. And my manager at the time would say, oh, don't worry, she's got one. I go, I do. And he would write something up. I'm like, okay, and I'm ready. And I would go for it.
Yeah.
And because they knew they could count on me, back then they did pay for people to come in as reporters, even though you weren't full-time. And they said, would you like a job doing this part-time? I'd say, yeah. And I have to tell you, some of the producers were really nice and kind and loving, and others yelled at me all the time. What the F is that? And then they go, you're live. I'd be okay.
It's hard not to be rattled if that happens, right?
And they usually were the younger producers, like, and I did everything. So every week I would find some activity. I'd show how you would do it as a beginner, and then in the middle and a professional. So I'd find a professional who was like, skydiving or kettlebells. It didn't matter, or martial arts. But I also had to do it too. And I was always, the one goofing up. They would make fun of whatever. But there would be things like I'd never been on a horse and I was horseback riding. And I would say to the producer, I remember, I've never been on a horse. And she'd say, and she would scream. Yeah, I don't know if they could do it nowadays. I'd be like, okay, I'm getting on the horse. Nice horsey. Nice. And I did that for about 10 years. But some of it was recorded and some of it was live. Mm-hmm. But it really did teach me, don't wait to be perfect. It's not going to happen. Mm-hmm. And to really embrace, how do you want them to feel? Because if you flub your words, I wasn't the 11 o'clock news anchor. I was the fitness expert.
Yeah.
But I didn't have time to prepare for some of the things. I just had to go. All right, here's your topic. And I wasn't reading script. There was no script because I was in the field. And it prepared me for anything. And even now when I teach people who are new to keynote speaking, yes, you want to practice. But when you get up there, they're not going to know that you missed a segment, you missed a line, and they don't care.
Yeah.
You know what? And I know it sounds cliche, but they really will remember that you evoked what emotion from them and what did you want to evoke from them.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a great tip. And I wanted to ask you back to this idea of I love how you say, don't wait to be perfect. Don't worry about that too much. When we did a pre-call, you said something, I think, this is very philosophical. I was going to ask you to kind of expound upon this, that you told me you rarely say the words mistake or failure. I'm glad you could come on the podcast and talk about mistakes, but what tell me your philosophy around those words.
So I'm a very big believer in that words really matter. Mm-hmm. And I felt that since I was a kid, even before I knew the science behind it, or it wasn't because of faith. I just knew that if I focused on a specific word every single day and then visualized where I wanted to go, it could change what was going on around me in my life. So I would use 3 things: movement, words, and laughter. I didn't call it that. Now I call it movement, words, and laughter, my wonderful life system. But I would move around and dance, like you see. And then I would focus in on a word, one specific. How do I want to show up today? Joy, peace, calm, powerful, ease, and flow. And then I would say, what do I have to do to feel more like that? And it could be something so simple as writing in my journal, going out, hugging a tree, calling a friend. It was always so different. as years went on, I realized that I was at a very young age conditioning my brain to shift out of the negative chatter into the positive chatter.
Mm-hmm.
And that even little things like jokingly saying, "Oh, I'm so stupid," it matters. And oh my God. And we know better. I can't believe I failed at that again. I conditioned myself to say, I never say the F word. I didn't figure it out yet. It got me closer. And maybe, there's something I'm not ready for. And for example, the thing with the teeth, it was, what was I thinking? I always went beyond. It was a lesson. I went above and beyond what I should do for my members. And it really did show me that, even though it ended up working out in the long run. But it doesn't have to be that difficult. I could have just blackened out my teeth. But I always think, okay, now what? I don't put myself down. I don't. Oh my God, I was watching this inspirational, I can't remember the woman's last name. Do you remember the woman? Her first name is Diane. She swam at 64 from Cuba to Key West.
Oh, wow.
There's a movie out on Netflix, and it's escaping me. Nida, maybe? And it's a true story. And this woman now is a motivational speaker at 74, but at 64. And she tried 5 times and almost lost her life. And then she comes out and saying, because she conditioned herself. Yeah, who would expect her to, it's like a freaking 100 miles to do that. And you can't stop. But what she had is her mindset. She had her conditioning of her wisdom of what she didn't have at 28 when she tried it and she kept trying it. She now mentally was more prepared. And I thought that was awesome because it's not just one thing. It's not just youth.
Right. I'd be curious your thoughts on this and that film. I haven't seen it, but it's NYAD, NYAD. And from your history as a trainer, to me, I'm all for having a growth mindset of saying, okay, I can learn and grow and progress and develop myself. But at the same time, I think there are certain physical limits where I could try swimming from Cuba to Key West and fail. And I don't know if I could ever do that.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I could.
No, you couldn't.
I thought you were trying to be positive.
No, I'm sorry.
It's okay. You're keeping it real, Sandy.
Oh, okay. You are right. Here's the answer. You are absolutely right. You can't say today, I want to be a professional quarterback.
Right.
It's hard. But she had been swimming since she was a child. So she already was a professional swimmer.
Right.
So she already had that in her body, and then she last tried when she was 28. But there was a 30-year gap. So there was a lot of training. But she already knew that she genetically, and also the training she had done for years and years and years. And she said it was like riding a bike, came right back to her, So that is true. There are certain limitations. Like I'm not going to be a professional hockey player. It's just not happening.
Right.
But there is a lot in between there. There's a lot of things you can do. And I do feel, even to this day, knowing all we know, we put limitations on ourselves, especially mentally. And I hear it every single day, Mark. Well, that's just the way I'm wired. That's how I grew up. I can't change that. Baloney. Now they know you can.
Right.
Yeah. Now they know you can rewire your brain and you can change the thoughts and things that they never thought was possible with certain different people and disabilities and mental health issues. People have come a long way.
Yeah.
And so I'm I don't know. I know it's good to understand your brain and put certain labels on it so you can be treated, but also I don't want you to stay in there.
Yeah. Yeah. And so maybe that helps us transition to your books about goals and progress. And let's say if somebody like there are more, I'm going to use the word achievable goals. Like if somebody listening is thinking, I'd like to host a podcast, but I can't do that. I would say, well, of course you can. Yeah. You could practice, you could learn, you could do, you could growth mindset your way into, you could do it.
Yes.
Might not be the best in the world. I'm not the best in the world, but I'm trying to get better. And then there's, realistic, achievable health and fitness goals. Let's say I want to bring down my A1C. I want to lose 10 pounds. Like, I know I can do that, but
yes.
I know what to do, but it's a matter sometimes then of habits and motivation. And so that's why I wanted to pick your brain. So one of Sandy's books is titled Train Your Head and Your Body Will Follow, Reach Any Goal in 3 minutes a day. Let's say if it's, okay, I'm going to make it about some of my individual personal fitness goals, health goals, I'm sure shared by others. Like what have you learned about, what would some of your advice be for habits and, what should I spend those 3 minutes a day on to more likely hit those important goals?
So I want to tell you why it is 1 to 3 minutes a day. All it takes, my slogan has been, all it takes is 1 to 3 minutes a day to change your body, your life in a positive, powerful way. This is science-based. I took a year and a half to study people that I believed exuded pure joy and were able to reach the goals in a fun way, in the way they wanted to do it. And I wanted to see if there was something that they had in common. So I would bribe my members and I say, listen, do you mind if I interview you? Mm-hmm. And I want to see, is there something that is transferable? And it was almost a year and I was like, okay, never mind. You guys are screwed. Kumbaya. These people are just born this way. But then I saw something, Mark. Every single one of them got up and felt like they were happening to life. They had a routine that they did every single day to get them in a positive, powerful headspace. They were not going to let life happen to them. They were going to happen to life. Now, the routines were all different. They were everything from baking muffins to journaling to working out to petting your dog. And the time was all different. It was everything from a few minutes to a few hours. So I thought, okay, this is transferable. I can help people. So then I gathered together, because one of my clubs, I was right near a lot of the universities, what I called the powers that be. And I got about 12 people, like the 12 apostles. I had neuroscientists, positive psychologists, gurus, exercise physiologists, nutritionists. And I told them my theory. So I said, why don't we create a guidebook, a journal for people that don't already have their morning routine to get into that routine? So we created one. And it took 5 minutes a day. And I would have very successful people fill it out. I say, pick one area of your life that's not quite where you want to be. So if your workout life, if your body and your health is where it want to be, which most of the people are, then pick money or relationships. Well, after another year, it failed. One person did it. Nobody was going to take 5 minutes a day to improve their life, even though I said just do it for 30 minutes. So I go back to my professors and I was like, what the heck? And the one guy says, well, Sandy, of course they did it. No one's going to spend 5 minutes. They don't already have that belief system. You have to make it 1 to 3 minutes a day. And I go, well, why didn't you tell me a year ago? He goes, we needed you to find out. I'm like, okay, great. So then I go back and make the journal, the guidebook, the prompter, 1 to 3 minutes a day. Mm-hmm. And it worked.
Yeah.
So why I'm saying it takes 1 to 3 minutes a day is because there is nothing more important than how you choose to start your morning. I don't care what time you get up, but how you choose to show up in the world. And it doesn't take long. Even if you take a few seconds, which I recommend, before your feet touch the floor, and say, how do you want to show up today? And pick one word. It might be powerful. It might be fun. It might be passionate, whatever it is. Come downstairs, write the word. Quickly write a statement or your goal that you're going after. It doesn't take but a minute. And then reflect upon it throughout the day. If it's working out, then say that. All right, well, I haven't done anything for 7 years, so I'm not going to, start working out for an hour a day. That's just not happening. I can tell you that from owning health clubs for over 30 years. Yeah. So maybe what I'm going to do and see success is I'm going to move for a minute. every hour. I can do that. And then you build on it. And you're building on it in a way, Mark, that's fun for you. Like if it's working out, you'll find a way that's not, oh my God, I have to work out. It might be a minute every hour. It might be that you end up finding a class that works. It might be working out at home. It might only be 5 minutes, but you're going to look forward to it.
Yeah.
And it comes from that conditioning of every day, just a few minutes looking, which I recommend writing it down at a guide of what you want and what you're going after.
There's something so powerful about starting with a minute, baby steps.
Yeah.
There's a psychologist at UCLA who I've interviewed a couple of times in a different podcast series, Robert Moore, who's written books about. I'm glad you know about him, but he talked about advising patients, like if you need to start exercising, he would tell them your realistic scenario, right? You're sitting on the couch, you're watching TV, a commercial comes on. Now maybe with streaming, you have to use different advice. But he's like, get up and walk in place for 30 seconds. Well, you're not going to transform your health walking for 30 seconds, but you get started. And then it becomes 2 commercials. It becomes the whole commercial break. Now you're going outside for a walk. And I think there's something powerful of getting the ball rolling. And I think this applies in a lot of workplace settings. If the leap is too big, it's easier to just get scared and say, well, no, I can't. But when that starting point is really small, it's less scary.
And I think for the people that I work, especially, I bet 90% of them are all or none. And they're so successful in one portion of their life and they can't accept, no, I can't do it that way. And so I look at them and go, okay, so how's your method working out for you? You work out for 2 to 3 weeks and then you quit. So let's just try it a different way and build upon it. And really now there is the science behind it, because what you're doing is making that body-mind connection and spiritual connection of the habit, and you're forming it. And like, okay, we're doing this just like brushing our teeth for a minute. And now we're doing it for 2 minutes. And now before you know it, I just had a woman, I wasn't sure I was going to crack her, one of my clients, who for her 30 seconds of working out, she's been doing it for years. She's like, oh, I already have my routine, Sandy. But then she went to the doctors and the doctor says, if you don't change what you're doing, you're going to die. Like literally everything was so bad. So she said, but I have a routine. It's 30 seconds. And so I went over it and it was 30 seconds and she was exhausted. I was like, okay. So I didn't say anything. I met her where she was. We did a minute. I gave her a minute routine. Waited a couple weeks. I know it sounds crazy. She could have been dead in the meantime, but I was hoping she wasn't. Then we went to a minute 15. Within, I think it's been 2 months, she went and joined a freaking gym. I'm like, oh my God. And she's going from somebody that didn't even want to do 30 seconds because there was no guilt, no feeling bad, finding her way, meeting her where she was. And now, I'm just excited she's going to live.
Yeah. That's great outcome and speaks to the power of, kind of taking some different approaches of not just doing what we've always done. And so, our guest today, Sandy Joy Weston, I appreciate the joy and the energy that you were bringing to this episode, and some of that positivity. I think around language. I want to come back to one other thing you talked about with language and negative self-talk, and one thing I've tried to be a lot more mindful of is language around labeling a mistake as like, oh, that was a dumb mistake, or that was a stupid mistake. When I'm like, no, it might have been a mistake.
Yeah.
But it's probably not a matter of intelligence. So we could have made a bad assumption, or, there could be other causes, but I try to encourage, even if I hear this language in a workplace, it's like, well, let's be careful whether we're labeling our own mistake or especially labeling someone else's mistake as dumb. I think that's kind of like unhelpful shaming. We want people to be open about mistakes. And I think labeling them as dumb doesn't help there. What are your thoughts?
I so agree with you. If you could change any of that culture, that people really do feel safe in admitting that, hey, I made a mistake. And now what? We would save a lot of time and energy and make more money. Mm-hmm. I can tell you a time where I was helping one of my favorite people, a doctor, build a health spa, medical spa. And he was overspending his money and just kept changing the plans for what he wanted. And he was driving everyone crazy, like this color, that color. No, I want this. And all the people that worked for him, the architects, the engineers were like, Sandy, he's driving us nuts. You have to say anything. I'm like, why don't you say anything? Well, they didn't want to get fired. So I'm in a meeting with all of them. And Doc says, listen, I'm thinking of changing this again. I don't like the way the floorboard is. What do you think, Sandy? And I said, no, you know what, Doc? This is you and your team. This is not my area. You go ahead. No. I value your opinion. What do you think? Should I change it? It's going to cost this much. I'm like, Doc, 3 times. You don't want to talk to your team. This is not my specialty.
Yeah.
Because I want to hear what you have to say. I go, okay, well, I think you're very creative. I think you have a lot of ideas, but this place is never going to get built and you're overspending money. I think we just have to go with what we have. It looks great. And I was so positive. And he looked at me in front of the whole meeting and went like this with his arms closed. And he goes, well, I don't appreciate that. I said, but you asked me for my opinion.
Right.
And he said, well, your opinion is stupid.
Well, now.
Well, I go, okay. Well, that worked out. And all the guys, and they're sitting there at the meetings with their phones. And I go, bail me out, guys, stick up. I go, what do you guys think? Well, that, he's got to do what he has to do. And I'm like, you mother. Because they left. They get in their car. They're like, we're sorry, Weston, but we need our jobs and blah, 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 blah. I'm like, okay. Well, I got up. I said, listen, don't ever speak to me that way again. Yeah. And I'm out.
Yeah.
Well, this is the good news. Because he is a good human being, but no one ever corrected this guy. Mm-hmm. No one ever said anything. And because he begged me to, and look at the response, because he was hoping I would agree with him. He really didn't want to hear what I had to say. Yeah. He called me the next day and he says, I am so sorry.
That's good.
I am so sorry that I did that to you. You are the only person that really has my back and truly cares about me. That's rare to admit.
It is. It's good that he would reflect on that and come back and be big enough to apologize.
Huge.
Yeah.
But you see, now I know why people are afraid of admitting that they made a mistake. And I just had it.
Or just disagreeing with the boss. People are afraid to do that because look, what gets punished isn't going to happen again.
I was just doing another deal just 2 weeks ago. And the guy thought I went over his head to get a deal, and it wasn't me. And I go, what are you talking about? And without even thinking, and this is a big CEO, in 30 seconds, he emailed all the bosses of the bosses of the bosses in the organization. I don't think I really appreciate Sandy going over my head and now doing another deal within the company that's not from my funding. And it wasn't me. I get him on the phone. I go, what are you doing? Don't you want to take a beat? And he goes, I can't believe you're trying to backstab. I go, it's not me.
Right.
And he started looking through, goes, oh my God. I go, you better make this right and tell those people. Guess what? He threw me under the bus. He said, Sandy and I realized that she now understands. And I'm not going to work with them. But you see what I mean? Like, why can't we just go? We're not perfect. I have like 9 things a day. I'm thinking, crap, I should have done it that way. I shouldn't have said it that way. Try it again. I don't get it, Mark. I really don't. That really bothered me. I have to tell you, I didn't expect to be thrown under like that.
No, I understand. And that's why, what a lot of people call psychological safety is so important. Not punishing people for speaking up and disagreeing or challenging things.
Oh, I never heard it that way. It's called psychological
safety. Yeah. And I recently had a chance to talk to one of the world experts on this, Amy Edmondson from Harvard Business School. So I would invite people to go check out that episode. And she's a great person to learn about creating this kind of workplace culture where people feel safe to speak up. It doesn't mean we're always going to agree. And that's the thing. Like, it's okay to disagree. Let's be respectful with people and not yell at them and not label their opinions stupid.
Yes.
We'll be better off. Well, Sandy, I also wanted to mention before we go, one thing we have in common is that we both started podcasts in the year 2006. And a lot of people are surprised they didn't know that was part of the problem back then. People didn't know podcasts were a thing. Now, this series started in 2020, but my Lean Blog Interviews podcast started in 2006. So Sandy's podcast again now is called Let's Keep It Real. Tell everyone what the original name and what the concept was. I think this is kind of
so originally it was called What Keeps You Up at Night. And my whole idea is I wanted to talk to professionals around the world that were looking at well-being in a different way. And we're on the cutting edge. And that was my way to get interviews and find out about the latest things for the mind, body, and spirit. And I was just fascinated by it. But then I realized What Keeps You Up at Night, it was really taking a shift on more about the positive things people were doing in the world and how they got to do them. And so I changed the title to Let's Keep It Real. Yeah.
A little more positive framing of things we could talk about. So, well, this has been great. I would encourage listener to visit Sandy's website. It's sandyjoyweston.com. You can find a link in the show notes. Got a free ebook I noticed on the website, Brain Resets.
Yep, it's fun.
Good thing for people to check out. Check out Sandy's podcast, her books. There will be links to all of that in the show notes. So Sandy, this has been a lot of fun. Thank you for sharing your story and stories and reflections from the different things you've done. This has been great.
Mark, thank you for having me on because I have never told some of those stories and had the opportunity. I mean, I do a lot of different things, but the way you framed your podcast about your favorite mistake, I started writing down so many different things that I haven't thought about in a while. So I really appreciate that. You changed my mindset on your favorite mistake.
Well, I'm happy to. And thank you for helping all of us as we work on that ourselves. So thanks again.
Toodles.